Hi, everybody. How are you? Happy Friday. Welcome to CT Live. I'm Montez Freeland. I am the associate producer at City Theater, and you're here at CT Live, which is our monthly catch up on all things City Theater and a little bit beyond. So, as many of you know, City Theater's digital spring season is underway. And we just extended The Catastrophist by Lauren Gunderson. Thank you to all of those who watched from home. And up next, we are presenting SITI Company's Room, the movie. That's SITI, not CITY, which I'm sure we're going to get all confused throughout this whole thing, but that's fun, right? Confusion is fun. So if SITI Company sounds familiar, or if Room sounds familiar to you, who are longtime City friends, that's because Room premiered at City Theater in 2001. And I hope you really watch this movie. To me, it's mesmerizing. It gets your imagination going. The performance is truly captivating. And it's described as a story about the room to move, the room to breathe, the room to imagine, and an emotional room, a creative room. So today, we're going to jump into the archives just a little bit and explore Room. Recently, our marketing director, Nikki Battistelli, who thank you so much for everything, found news clippings from City's past, which were really intriguing. Claire, would you mind showing one from Room? Thank you. We had an awesome team here. So this is a preview article that I believe was written by the late Alice Carter and ushering in the good news about Room coming to City Theater. And this is back when we used to have preview articles, and I hope they come back soon. But it was, we'll get into a little bit of the history, but City and City have had a long-standing relationship. Thank you, Claire. And we are going to explore that today. So I'm going to invite two guys who I think know each other just a little bit. But with Mark Masterson and Darron West, please join me on CT Live.
Hey there.
Hey, hi Montez.
Hello. So we're going to chat.
Hi, Mark.
Yeah, so hopefully we won't confuse people too much, but everyone, Mark Masterson is, the artistic director of City Theater Company in Pittsburgh. And Darron, welcome to CT Live. Appreciate you being here. I'm gonna brag on you just a little bit, okay?
Okay.
Okay, so I heard that you began around like Actors Theater of Louisville, and then you eventually joined City Company in 1993?
That's correct.
Yes, and you went on to win many awards, including the Tony Award, and your designs have just been heard all around the world. So I want to welcome you and thank you for your contribution to just the American theater in general.
It's really great to be here. I'm very excited. It's a nice way to spend a few moments of my day today.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, so let's jump into it. So let's talk about this. Mark or Darron, can you tell us like how City and City became collaborators?
I can tell you part that I'm not even sure Darron knows all of this, but I think you know some of it.
Yeah.
So when I started at City Theater in the early 80s, there were two actors who were part of the City Theater Company, and they were Kelly Maurer and Will Bond. And they had trained, or Kelly had trained under Tadashi Suzuki, who is a famous theater trainer practitioner based in Japan. And there was a sort of migration of interested young performers who went to study with Suzuki, including Kelly, and then eventually including Will Bond. And those two actors were part of the City Theater DNA from the very beginning, and then went off to work for the City Company. I started going to see their work when they formed the City Company and began performing at Actors Theater of Louisville as sort of a resident home. And that was in the early 90s. And then I started I saw everything that they did, and I started inviting them to come back and make work at City Theater. So in the 90s, we created, I think it was 5 different productions with the City Company. play called Culture of Desire, Alice's Adventures, Room, and The Medium, and may have been one more. And there were some other projects that involved individual members of the SITI Company, but weren't official collaborations. And that actually is the thing that opened the door for me personally, moving to become the artistic director at Actors Theater of Louisville after about 10 years of this going back and forth. It was Anne Bogart and the relationship of the individual artists to that theater that ended up opening the door for me to go. And Darron and I became friends back in that time. You know, we would hang out there in the bar in Louisville and get to know each other. And then you and I have worked together, I don't even know how many times, on those SITI Company projects and on other things individually and collaboratively over the years. So we go back a long way, and that's the origin of the city connection. Did you know all that, Darron?
I did not know all of that. But, you know, the thing that has always been great about City Theater for us is that it always felt like a home. We made so much work there. And when we were in Pittsburgh, we adopted that town. Like, I hope Dee's Cafe is still open behind the back door of the theater. Because
yeah, it is.
Great. Okay, good. Because I was in Dee's Cafe the night that that Princess Diana had her car crash. And every time that inevitably the stage manager and I will just randomly think about that moment and where we were, and we were standing at the bar at Dee's Cafe in Pittsburgh. It's always been home to us. And I love that space, you know, that space is magical to be in there. And so I'm looking forward to actually getting back there at some point.
Yeah, for sure. You know, and I was in our research when we were looking at some of the archives, it talked about that. It talked about, you know, the fact that when Mark left City Theater, that the public was like, oh snap, what's going to happen with the contributions City, you know, coming to the theater? And so it definitely was something I think that patrons in Pittsburgh were looking forward to and really appreciated the storytelling and the partnership. So Darron, why don't you talk about a little bit about Room and sort of your history with the show? Because I believe you directed the movie, right?
I did. Yeah,
You didn't direct the original production, did you?
I did not. It was, you know, we made the production. It started actually, I'm in West Fulton, New York right now, where we're shooting footage for a project that we're doing in Singapore. But the reason I think about it is if I look to my right, Anne's old barn is right here in the backyard. And the piece started with Anne and Ellen's mutual love for Virginia Woolf. Mm-hmm. And so when they started working on it, they had a set schedule where Anne would open the doors to the barn. She would come and sit in her chair, and there was a chair on the other end of the barn. Actually, this little red chair that's behind me was sitting in the barn, and Anne would sit there. She'd have her cup of coffee or her cup of tea, and Ellen would enter into the barn and sit and begin speaking this amalgamation of text of Virginia Woolf's. So that's sort of where it began. It's funny to be talking about it now, and I can see the barn right there. I get little goosebumps. So we made the show. We did it in Pittsburgh, and I think we did it in Columbus. It had legs. We took it all around the country, and what happened for me was that it is a show that Virginia Woolf's text and the way she tells stories and the vividness of her writing just really stays with you. So when the pandemic happened, we were all trapped in our rooms. We all had a room of one's own. And in sort of the conversations with Ellen and Anne and people at the company, it just kept floating up. Like little quotes would happen in Facebook meetings or FaceTiming with one another. And Ellen would go, you know, that reminds me of that Virginia Woolf line from Room. And it started as a very, very small thing where Ellen was going to shoot little camera phone pictures on her phone and sort of upload little diaries of Virginia Woolf. That's how this whole thing started. But then I think Ellen got a little overwhelmed by the technology of having to do that and how to get us the files. And she was up at the farm, and I, in my infinite wisdom, decided that I said to Anne, this is never going to happen unless I go up and just shoot this stuff with her. So then it exploded. So the next thing I know, I've got a carload of gear and microphones and cameras and gimbals and, you know, the little Steadicam things. And I headed up for a weekend, and we shot all of the footage over the process of a weekend inside of Ellen's house and in her barn and in various fields, etc. And I would shoot, you know, B-roll footage of the beautiful flowers and the surroundings that we were looking at. And then Ellen and I would buckle down and work on the play each morning and go and think about what, there were moments in room that were purely theatrical that would not transfer in the same way on film. So we basically excised the lecture portion of it that interacts with a breathing audience that's in front of the performer, and thought from the standpoint that what would happen if there was a camera that followed Virginia around. And that was sort of the basis of how it all started.
That's amazing. I mean, it's like we all had to pivot. We all are like filmmakers now in this weird way. Not as good as you, but you know, it's like we're all filmmakers in this new world. And
well, you know, the thing that was fascinating for me were these were tools I had not touched since the late 90s, or you know, I just didn't. They were super rusty, but there were points in time I was standing out in the field. Ellen is running around in an orange dress. I have headphones on. In every pocket of my cargo pants had a digital recorder that was taking the wireless mic signal. And then I had the wireless mic receiver. And then I had the camera batteries. I'm standing in this field thinking, I'm a theater sound designer. Why am I standing in the middle of the field yelling at Ellen to dance around some more? You just had moments of thinking, I can't believe I'm doing this. But I think the one thing the pandemic, I feel like, at least for us and our company, is it has weirdly made us more adventurous. Like, let's just try it. Let's see what happens. I mean, we're in the midst of doing this now. We started with Room, and now we're doing this collaboration project in Singapore with Three Sisters. And I honestly feel like I'm making a major motion picture now. It's like each time that we all get in a room together and there are cameras involved, there used to be only one camera. Now there are 3 cameras, and you know, it just explodes before your eyes. But
I wanted to ask you a question about the subject, because I know that, you know, the SITI Company is an ensemble that works together and creates things of interest to you, right? And there has been a long history, 20 years or so, of taking individual artists and then creating a piece around that artist. So one was Andy Warhol with Culture of Desire that we did in Pittsburgh. And, you know, another one was Room about Virginia Woolf, but then there's been Joseph Cornell and Bob Rauschenberg and, you know, like Norman Rockwell. I don't know. Can you just talk about the way that an ensemble like the SITI Company is, what those explorations are really all about? Because it's not just about the artists that you're studying, it's also about you, right? And the artists who are making the work.
You know, I think the company definitely realizes that it stands on the shoulders of a lot of giants, and we get inspiration from all over. So to roll around in the world of Bob Rauschenberg or Orson Welles or Leonard Bernstein, actually you learn something when you are face to face with those artists, and there's it's a lot about just pursuing our interest in learning things from artists that have come before us, and from learning their aesthetic or getting really inside of their processes, it affects how you proceed in the world as an artist, and you incorporate these various things in all the work that you do. So I think a lot of it is just about learning. You know, learning from these fellow artists that are giants, you know, and why not? If you're going to learn, you might as well learn from the best. If you're
I mean, it's one of, about 15 different pieces that have been explorations of individual artists and responses of the SITI Company to those artists. It's
Yeah,
what I'm getting at is it's part of a canon, and in
it
fact,
is.
sort of the main canon of the SITI Company has been this ongoing exploration of artists, Bob Wilson and Virginia Woolf and
Marshall McLuhan.
Right.
Yeah. Anne, when the company first started, Anne had a desire to do what she called theatrical essays, and they were going to be on the works of Anton Chekhov, and one of the essays were going to be on quantum physics, which was going, gone, and on Marshall McLuhan as well, because she thought of him so much like a Nostradamus of technology, and we were just beginning to really comprehend what the internet was doing. And so Anne always is thinking, using these artists that she finds inspiring to be a little culturally ahead, frankly, that these people that we re-examine to find out about who we are in the here and now.
That's cool. Thanks for that. Anything else, Montez?
Well, I was going to ask what excites you about this show, but I think we hear it, the idea of working with Ellen, who does an amazing job. And I know everyone has such an affinity for her work, and she's been doing this for over 20 years or so, which is really cool.
Yeah, she has, but she had to learn a whole new technology. If anybody has had a chance to see Ellen Lauren on stage, she is ferocious. She takes up an enormous amount of space, and she is an extraordinary actress. And then to take that and put it into a 16:9 frame was practicing a different craft for her. So the entire first day of shooting was really making decisions about where her focus was going to go, in the lens or out of the lens, and when she she really learned a new craft that weekend. And it was a time that I will always cherish, because it was just she and I had been so isolated from people during the pandemic, and taking that 3-hour drive up here to West Fulton. And I stayed in Anne's house, and Ellen stayed over in her house across the street, and we would meet at 9:00 in the morning and have a cup of tea and talk about how we were going to shoot. It was a special moment among a couple of artists who have been working together for more than 30 years, reconnecting really in this new environment that we all found ourselves in a year ago, and that we're still in, frankly.
Yeah, we're still in our rooms.
We all have a room of our own.
Yes. Well, I appreciate you coming and sharing your history. We could have talked about this for, I'm sure, another hour, but we want our audiences to spend that hour or so watching Room the Film, which is going to be available for stream from April 19th through May 11th. And tickets, I believe right now, are already on sale. So they can go on SITI Theater Company's website and purchase tickets to watch and to explore, and to those who've seen it before to, get reacquainted, and those who haven't, to be introduced not only to the story of, Virginia Woolf's work, but also to Ellen and her amazing work as well.
Yeah.
Darren. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. And the sound design, I have to say one last thing. The sound designer in me would want to make sure he says to the people that get to watch Room the Film at SITI Theater Online is wear the best headphones you own when you're watching it. Turn the lights down and wear the best headphones you have.
I agree.
Always good advice from you, Darren.
You're going to supply all the Apple earphones, right? You're going to supply.
Right? No, we're even talking better than the Apple earphones.
Cool. I appreciate you being here. Thank you. And thank you, Mark, for coming and stopping by and sharing your history.
Yeah, it's really fun. Thanks
oh my God. So good to see you, Mark. Nice to meet you, Montez.
You too, Darren. Have a
Bye-bye.
good. Well, I'm going to bring on someone who I think is a national treasure, but definitely a Pittsburgh treasure, and someone who has been a part of my artistic growth for the past, 10 or 11 years or so. Mr. Tony Ferrieri, well, you're going to join us and say hello?
Hello.
Hello.
Hey, everybody.
Yes, we're so happy to have you. For those who don't know, and I don't know who those people would be, but Tony is the director of production and resident scenic designer here at SITI Theater. And maybe a couple of weeks ago, I was just scrolling on Facebook, and then I saw you post that, I think it was like March 19th or something like that, was your 42nd anniversary of working at SITI Theater.
Yes.
How did that feel? Like to think about it and to post it, you know?
Makes me feel a little old, but it's been a great ride for 42 years with City Theater Company, I must say.
I'll say, yeah, I think we'll all say for sure. You know, it's crazy because I think a lot of times designers are, you know, they're not necessarily the face of their work. Their work speaks for them. But I think because you have just worked with so many people and so many different companies that in a way I can walk into a theater and I know that Tony has had his hand on a set.
Thank you.
Yes. So how did you join City Theater? Did City Theater find you? Did you find City Theater?
City Theater and I found each other, actually.
Hmm.
I was a student at Pitt at the time and was in technical theater and about to graduate when they were looking for a technical director. And so I applied, and before I even graduated, I got the job. So we kind of found each other, and it was sort of like, perfect storm. They needed somebody, and I needed a job, and it's been a party ever since.
Yes, yeah, I think we're actually looking for someone for that.
Yes, we are. Now we're looking for a new technical director.
Right, the new future potential Tony to come in and move up the ranks. You know,
There we
we're
go.
not ready to say goodbye yet at all. So,
I'm not ready either.
so for 42 years, a lot has changed. This in the world, in the realm of the business that we're in. Uh, how has your process changed? You know, like I imagine now there's more technology involved in doing, you know, even from the beginning to end steps. But how has your process changed in designing sets?
My process hasn't changed a whole lot because I'm still not in the whole Vectorworks CAD world yet. I mean, I've worked with some assistants who have sort of, worked me through it, but most of my work I still do hand drafting and hand sketching. I feel like it's a little less uh, me- uh, m- uh, mechanical, I
Mhm.
guess. Um, sometimes you can't get quite the feeling that you want from a digitally generated sketch as you can from a hand drawn sketch. So I still prefer doing hand drawings, but the world is changing and I need to change with it because technical directors and production managers want digital stuff. So right now I'm working with different assistants, but in the future, hopefully soon, I'll be able to do it myself. I'm worked on it a little bit with one of my assistants from Point Park, who's been kind of walking me through it a little bit, and it's fun to try to learn, but it's a big learning curve for me.
But I mean, that's so inspiring that, like, you know, after, you know, these years that you're like, I'm still going to learn. You're not going to say, you know, this is how you're going to get this from me. But I got to say, like, it is a special feeling when you walk into the room with that big piece of paper and hand it over and you see it drawn and you see, you know, the not always just the bare bones, but sort of the story. It allows for me as a director to start to see my story clearly once you
Mhm.
see the playground that you're going to play on. So I'll always take a hand drawn set design. In fact, I've kept mine that you have made for me over the years. I definitely have because I know
Oh, really?
for sure because I know how special they are. Because most folks, you get an email, you know, into a folder and you're looking at different things. So in this, you know, you've had to read a lot of plays,
Yes, I have.
and you've
I've
had
had
to.
586 of them, I think, at this point.
Wow. Oh my goodness. I I hope I've never done anything 586 times at this point.
You will eventually, Montez.
Right? But so in your set designs, like when you read a play, what do you prefer? Do you prefer like literal designs or do you prefer to have some fun with abstract worlds?
Um, I have to say that literal is my favorite
Mm,
because I'm a very detail oriented designer,
uh,
down to all the little knickknacks and whatever the dressing is. That's kind of my favorite thing to do. But I like the challenge of an abstract design too. Either one, as long as the show has a challenge of some sort, whether it's the challenge of being detail, oriented, literal, or trying to figure out like what is the abstract image or presentation that will work for this play, and work for the staging of it, because I always look at my designs from a director's standpoint. Someday I'm going to direct something.
Yes, I feel like you've been in the room so much that you've probably seen it all, that you absolutely could direct something for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so cool. So you talked about the challenges, so what is like what are the rewards and what are the challenges in your field?
Well, the biggest reward for me is opening night, getting to be sitting in the audience, seeing how people react to the play and to my design, and hopefully being able to, that my design will like suck them into the environment that whatever the play is, and kind of keep their attention in that world for the hour and a half or 2 hours or whatever it is. And it's been very rewarding working with a lot of great artists, both directors, designers, lighting designers and sound designers, costume designers, and all of the production staff, who really are the ones who make it happen. I might have this amazing idea in my head and put it on paper, but those are the people who really put it out there and make it happen. I've worked with a great staff at City Theater for most of the years I've been here. Some have been here almost not as quite as long as me, but a lot of years. I don't know what I'd do without Leah Blackwood, our scenic designer. She's amazing scenic artist. She makes it happen. She makes all that grungy, dirty stuff look real. And our shop staff, John and Andy and all of them, that they put their hearts and souls into building stuff, and they're always giving me a little ribbing because I'm so detail oriented. I'll never forget when Joe Dick was there as a carpenter, and we were doing Mother Teresa's Dead, and we were putting little detail on the columns and the beams that were part of the set, and he said, "Tony, this is like putting salt in the ocean." They always make fun of me, and they're always saying, "That's a little too much salt there, Tony." So, but luckily I like salt in my food and in my sets. So
you got me there. So I remember when we did Wild with Happy, it came onto the set and it was like, "Yes, Jesus, yes." And I turned around, I just wanted to laugh because it's always like something you find when you're on a set, that you.
yeah.
But we have a question from one of our watchers who asked, what maybe some of what your favorite set designs have been that you have designed over the years.
Oh, this is such a hard question because there are, like I said, there's over 500 of them.
Wow.
But one that definitely comes to mind is Feeding the Dragon.
Wow.
Which to me was one of my favorite productions ever. I mean, the whole company worked together so well. The sound designer, Lindsay Jones, myself, and costume designer. It was just such a great team and such a collaborative effort. And Wrightson, who did the lights, made those windows upstage come alive.
Yeah.
When the furnace was on, lighting up and getting lit and firing up. So it was just a pleasant, a really pleasant experience, and you always look forward to and remember those shows because, they're not every show is like that,
Right.
where you have, just such a great experience all around.
Very true. Very true. I love that set. I love that show. And of course, Sharon's wonderful
Sharon
performance
is
as well.
amazing, and now like one of my dearest friends. So
Oh, that's wonderful. That's
yeah.
any other ones that come to mind?
Well, as far as like a realistic show, LMNOP,
Yeah.
which was this beach house that had to have lots of detail, and that was fun for me, and it was kind of a beautiful setting. People loved what it looked like, and everyone was like, yeah, this looks like a beach house that I would rent, down in Outer Banks. So I'm always happy when people are like, yes, yes, yes.
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't mind taking a little vacation there.
Yeah, people are always like, could we rent that? And I was like, well, you could only be there during the daytime hours, because during the evenings it has other occupancies.
Yes, I love it. I love it. Now, is there a third one that maybe comes in,
Yeah, Marcus the Secretive Suite,
Mhm.
because it was sort of like that type of like abstraction of design that just worked beautifully. With its, we had rain, there was water, the actors got into the pool, and the story was beautiful and beautifully told by the director.
Mhm.
And it Andy's lights played on the idea of the dock and the cypress trees, and um, the whole look of it just turned out to be really beautiful, and I was very pleased with that one.
Yes, yeah, I remember that show so vividly. I auditioned for that show, but I
Oh, you
also
did.
remember
No, you
that show.
did.
But Larry did an amazing job. And of course, the wonderful Bria Walker was also in
Yes,
it.
Bria, good old Bria, love her.
Yes, yes. It,
You know, through all these years, you meet all these great people, and you become friends with them, and it's like lifelong relationships and friendships that you
Mhm.
create.
That's so
So
true.
that's one of the other um, rewarding things about this.
Right. It's never just about the art, and you touched on that, but because it's about the collaboration. It's about meeting
Absolutely right.
those friendships. I love that you don't talk about your work without highlighting the work of all those around you, which is so inspiring. And I think that that's something that we all can adopt to make sure that we're, as Ty Greenwood said, lifting as we climb.
Yeah,
um
absolutely.
Very important. Speaking of, this is the last question I have for you. Do you have any advice? And I'm gonna write it down too. For although I don't design sets, I'll listen to any advice you got to give. But do you have any advice for people who want to come into this field, who want to do set design or work on the production side of theater?
I would say my main piece of advice is to take every opportunity that comes to you.
Mm.
No matter whether it's for a lot of pay or no pay, because you got to get yourself out there, and that's a lot of what I did. I took design jobs from anybody who wanted me to design, basically from the beginning, because you got to get people to see your stuff, and that's the only way to do it, is to just take any opportunity that comes your way. And whether that means designing a show yourself or assisting somebody, you know, uh, just to be able to get your name out there and get yourself known. You know,
Yeah,
you
that's
got to
amazing. I
you got
agree
to
with
be
that.
you got to be your own best, you know, advocate, basically. You know,
Yes. Yeah, I mean, you've done that, but you also have given back, because I think the first set I was on of yours is when I did Sweeney Todd all,
oh, Sweeney Todd,
all those years ago.
all
And
those years ago over at the Hazlet.
yes, at the Hazlet, and it was like I walked in there, I was like, what? And but we actually helped build that one too. So
Yes, you did.
that was a lot of fun.
I remember that.
Yeah, yeah. But Tony, thank you so much for joining us. Hopefully
Thank you
folks
so
who
much
are
for having me.
yes, of course. They'll Google you and look at your designs and, just be in awe as we are that over 500 of these creations have come from your head, and many more to come. Many,
I
many.
hope so. I hope so.
Yes, for sure. Thank you,
Looking
Tony.
forward to getting us back in the theater and back on stage with front of an audience.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We're going to do it and on your sets. So it's going to be
I
great.
hope so.
Yes. Thank you, Tony. I appreciate
Thank
it.
you, Montez. Thanks for having me. I
Yes.
appreciate it.
Of course. And I want to thank all of our audience members who are watching and who have, asked questions in the chat or following CT Live. We really appreciate it. We are continuing, as I said, with our digital spring season. Up next, of course, is Room the Film, available for stream from April 19th through May 11th. And then we have Homegrown Stories 2, which will premiere on May 25th at 7 p.m. And Homegrown Story 2 is a partnership between City Theater and Point Park University and the Playhouse, the Pittsburgh Playhouse. And it'll feature 5 10-minute plays by local playwrights such as Patrick Cannon, Kim L., Gab Cody, Molly Rice, and myself. And that will premiere on May 25th at 7 p.m. And then we have Spotlight, which is coming up throughout the month of June. Tickets aren't on sale for that yet because we're going to just show you these amazing 6 solo pieces by Bria Walker, Latrey Rembert, Juliana Volio, Laurie Clatcher, Martin Giles, and Treble NLS. And we're going to make those available for you in June. So stick with City Theater throughout the spring. We're bringing you some quality, fun, local, and national entertainment to make sure that your spring is as beautiful as it is outside. So thank you, and continue to love on each other and support local theater. Have a great day.